So today we're still in Chapter 3 of Academic Encounters talking about adolescence, but today we're going to do some grammar and vocab work. We're going to start by talking about definitions, and when we talk about definitions, we're also going to introduce the idea of synonyms. Now, by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to give a clear and concise definition when asked in an appropriate academic language, and you'll have an understanding of synonyms and be able to use them to organize and remember new vocabulary words. So first we're going to start by talking about definitions, and they're super important. Definitions are going to be on almost every test you take in all sorts of subjects. So it's very important to have a good grasp of definitions. So often a test will ask you to define a key term. If the term only has one possible definition, that makes it easy for you. Now, if a term can be defined different ways, your answer is going to have to be a little more complex. So there are several ways you can start out writing your definition. One would be, let's say our word is adolescent. Let's use that as an example. The first way you could describe it, adolescence is, and then continue to write what adolescence is. That would be the easiest way to give a definition. However, you can also get a little fancier and say adolescence may be defined as, or adolescence can be defined in different ways, or adolescence is often defined as, and continue writing. The first one, very simple, very basic, it will still get you a grade. The other three, a little more complex, it'll make your writing look more polished. Now we're going to remember these grammatical structures later for when we write our own definitions. But for now, I'm going to give you a definition of a definition. A definition can be defined as the concise meaning of a word. And we're going to move on. So synonyms are another way we can consider defining terms. If I was going to tell a student, a student asked me, what's adolescence? I'd say teenager. And they'd understand what I meant, because they mean the same thing. They're a synonym. If a student asked me what ponder meant, I'd say think, because they mean the same thing. So, using some of the words that have already been highlighted in our chapter, we're going to try and create our own synonyms. So, Mick, do you understand what a synonym is?
Yes.
All right. So, I'm going to read you some sentences, and I'm going to ask you to give me a synonym of some words. So, one of the sentences taken right from our reading here on page 76. This new, higher level of mental operations often get turned towards self-analysis, toward a contemplation of oneself in a social context. Now, in that sentence, Mick, you can take a look at the book. Which terms are synonyms? Which phrases are synonyms?
Self-analysis and contemplation of oneself.
Very good. That's a synonym. They say the same thing, just in a different way. Now let's try one more example. Adolescents give the impression of being great experimenters. They experiment with hairstyles, music. They are busy trying things out, doing things their way, off on a grand search for truth.
So the synonyms there would be experiment and trying things out.
Exactly. Two ways of saying the same thing. Synonyms are incredibly important when you're taking notes and later in your academic writing, because everyone wants to avoid plagiarism, which is when you take an author's words and don't give them credit. Paraphrasing is an easy way to make the author's words your own and not have to write in quotes. So you're going to paraphrase all the time. So paraphrasing is something we definitely need to practice. Now, Mick, would you like to be the teacher and ask me to do one? You can take the book from me.
Okay. One of the major tasks of adolescence is the resolution of an identity crisis, the struggle to define and integrate the sense of who one is, what one is to do in life. During adolescence, we come to grips with many questions. Who am I? What am I going to do with my life? So then, what would the synonyms in there be?
Oh boy, I am thinking the synonyms would be the resolution of an identity crisis would be coming to grips. So resolution and coming to grips. That's what I would put. And I believe if we look at it, that would be the synonyms. So if I wanted to say, if I wanted to take the sentence, during adolescence, we come to grips with many questions, I could paraphrase it and say, during adolescence, we reach the resolution of many questions. Or something like that. But then I would be using my own words and not the author's. So Mick, from the reading, let's go for our next reading, which, let's scroll back up to our reading. Do you want to pick a few words out of there and try and write down some synonyms for them?
Okay.
Just pick 3 words and then write some synonyms and share them with the class. Take your time. There's no pressure.
Okay, I'm done.
All right, let's share them.
So for the first one, I put stress, and we could also just call that difficulty, or difficulties,
Very
I suppose,
good.
since there's
Very
usually
good.
more than one. And turmoil could also be described as chaos.
Big words. Good job.
And uncooperative could also be stubborn.
Stubborn. I love that word, stubborn. So those are some great synonyms. Now, if you wanted to use, could you use one of the synonyms in a definition?
For defining one of the original words?
Yeah, go ahead.
Stress could be described as dealing with life's difficulties and the feelings which they inspire.
Very good, very good. So as we see, synonyms and definitions can be intertwined. That's why we're teaching them together for you here. So this is the end of our grammar and vocabulary warm-up. Thank you so much. And Mick, very good job.
Thank you.